What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk, the world's most underrated podcast on earth. And there's just something about the underdog y'all already know. I mean, today we are joined by the rising star. I'm going to say that rising star, Eric Wagaman. What is up, sir? How are we doing today on this Thursday?
We're doing well. I'm happy to be on here with you.
Yeah, and man, I was looking through your Instagram, man, and that first home run that gave me chills. I can only imagine what that was feeling like for you, Eric. Considering I don't think I've ever even hit a home run in Little League, considering let alone I was the guy who would jump away from the ball when it came to me. So
Yeah.
you hit a major league home run. I mean, what was let's just jump into it. What was that like? I mean, what was the emotions? I've heard players black out when they're rounding the bases. What was it like for you, Eric?
It was a little bit of that. I feel like it was, I hit it. It wasn't one of those ones that was like, oh, that's gone off the bat. Like I thought I had a chance and I saw the center fielder kind of tracking it and he even jumped up at the wall and it like, I wasn't sure if he came down with it or not, but, once it like looked like he didn't come down with it, yeah, I kind of blacked out running around from first to second to third. And then, yeah, it was just an awesome moment. I had my family in the stands, a lot of friends and family in the stands. So yeah, it was definitely special. It was cool. It was amazing.
And I mean, those are the moments you remember. And I mean, I honestly have never really felt that moment like yesterday. I don't know if you watched the Mets game when Lindor hit that run, and it's just like holy moly, what is like? Those emotions just must be absolutely insane. I don't think the regular person can just feel the crowd, feel. I mean, it's got to be something special, man. And obviously, this is your first season in the bigs. What was that like? Obviously, I want to hype you up. You got another home run as well. You didn't just get that one. And
Yeah,
what was it like being in the bigs and living out everyone's dream?
for sure. It was definitely an adjustment. I feel like everything, like the guys in the minor leagues are obviously really good, but then you get to the big leagues and it's like everyone's the best of the best that you play against in the minor leagues. So it's like everything's a little sharper, everything's located a little better. So like after my first 8 at bats, I think our hitting coach came up to me and he was like, he kind of gave me some advice like, hey, you've never seen these guys throw. Like, you don't know how their stuff's going to move. Like, you can watch video all you want on it, but until you're in the box and you understand like actually how it's going to move, where it needs to start, like maybe you should be just a tad more patient almost and kind of like, and then that'll even set you up for your next at bat and be like, okay, if I do get that pitch, this is where it needs to start in order for me to hit it. So I think that like that part of it was a bit of it's definitely a learning curve. Like, there's a learning process to it for sure. So I felt like I did a pretty good job after we talked about that of kind of being a little more patient. There were some at bats that I felt like I kind of gave away that I wish I could have back, but this part of the game, you move on and you just learn from it. But overall, it was a really good experience. It's just, yeah, I mean, I felt like it was super fun being in the big leagues and stuff, but like you want to stay there. So I wanted to learn from it and like go into this off season and progress on what I want to progress on, and then kind of go into spring training ready to go try to earn a spot.
So, and obviously, it's the same as college ball in terms for football and shoot, I guess even college ball and baseball. But I mean, it's a different kind of. I mean, you're going against, like you talked about, Eric, the best of the best in these professional leagues. I mean, these are the best of the best, obviously. And so the next goal for you is obviously spring training. We just finished the regular season into postseason. So spring training, you're going to go in and you're competing for that. I know you are. You're competing for that spot on the Angels. What is this offseason going to look like for you in terms of being an athlete, in terms of kind of dealing with that recovery after a long season? Are you going to be working on any techniques? What's that all like?
Right. Yeah. I think the first few weeks after getting back, it's kind of just letting your body rest a little bit. But yeah, I think for me, hitting wise, I want to kind of just clean a couple mechanical things up. Nothing major, but just a couple mechanical things to be more consistent. Obviously, everyone's looking for consistency, so a couple things mechanically to clean up some consistency stuff and give myself like more room for error, like more length in the zone type of deal. And then yeah, from a training standpoint, like maintain my strength. I feel like I'm at a good spot with that. So yeah, obviously get a little stronger, but maintain it most of the part. And then I want to do like a lot of footwork stuff because playing third base was very new to me. I never played there before this year. So I think if I could get my feet working with my hands a little better overall, I think it would just clean a lot of stuff up on the defensive side. And then, just, the normal stuff, explosiveness, trying to maximize your range over there and stuff like that. Just being an athlete. Yeah.
And obviously, you were playing outfield before. This is your first time in your career going to third base, and is this the first time playing third base? And it happens to be in the majors as well, Eric.
My first 6 years of pro ball, I only played first base. Then I got here with the Angels, and in the minor leagues, I mostly played right field, and then they started putting me at third. I probably played right. I don't know the exact number, but it was probably around 40 games in the minor leagues, maybe 45 at third, and then when I got to the big leagues, it was only third base. So it was a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, there's a lot more eyes and cameras on you and stuff like that, and I feel like I did overall, I did a good job of making the routine plays. There was one game where it was just bad, but you learn from it, you move on. But overall, it was pretty good over there. But yeah, this was my first time really playing third base, so I'm looking forward to having a full off season of actually working on that.
Wow. And it's kind of, again, to that NFL aspect for all those football fans out there, that lineman, you're switching from right tackle to center. It's a whole, is it a different kind of game? I mean, obviously, is it a different kind of game in terms of you're getting balls hit to you instead of thrown to you more at first base? Is there a big defensive difference in being a third baseman and a first baseman? I know that sounds silly, but is there any difference?
No, I didn't think there was going to be that big of a difference, but there's definitely a difference because at first, you're right there, you have more time. All you got to do is flip it to the pitcher. At third, you got to be a little more athletic and get that throw off in time. And yeah, the spin like off the bat towards third base can be a little different sometimes. Some balls are top spun, some are chopped straight into the ground. You got to come get them. Yeah, just the angles are a little different over at third. I like I said, I didn't think it was going to be much different, but yeah, it's definitely very comparable to the offensive line switching from position to position over there. It's just a little different, so you gotta adjust to it. And like I said, I'm just glad I have an off season to work on it this time.
And, one other thing that stands out to me about your career, obviously, besides breaking out in the majors and showing who you are, is kind of your journey. Getting drafted to the historic New York Yankees and
Right.
just going. I don't want to say bouncing around, but going to different organizations. You obviously dealt with the highs and lows of the sport. How did you kind of maintain that champion mindset when you were going to those different organizations, having to kind of restart, and it obviously paid off because you are on the Angels now and you are in the bigs. How do you
Right.
kind of maintain that composure, I guess, would be the question.
You definitely don't know how to do it until like you're going through it. So it was a bit of an adjustment, but I feel like I kind of started to look at things like more like big picture. Like instead of I'm on the bench today, I'm never going to make it to the big leagues, and dwelling on it, it's like, well, I'm on the bench today, but I get to play tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to take advantage of tomorrow. So it's just taking it day by day and like just really taking advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. Because I mean, it is at the end of the day, it's a business. So it's like, yeah, the first rounder is going to get to play every day, no matter kind of how he does. But if you can just stick around and take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you, and you can be a good guy in the clubhouse, be a good teammate, that stuff does go a long way. Because I feel like I've seen guys that have talent, but like maybe they're not good in the clubhouse, or like people don't really want to be around them. And at the end of the day, it kind of weeds people out. So I think all that stuff kind of comes into play when we talk about that.
Yeah, I think it is. It's more than just your on-field presence. It's also how you compose yourself in the locker room during those slumps, challenges.
Exactly.
And when I think of that, I think of great players who remind me of both of those qualities. And that to me makes a champion. What was it like? Kind of obviously we talk about that transition going from the minors to the bigs. When did you actually get that call from the Angels? Hey, we're promoting you. Obviously, I saw you got promoted to the 40 man when Anthony went out. But what was that actually like of kind of finally being where you want to be?
I was in AAA, and we just had flown from Salt Lake City to El Paso. And we got off the plane, and we were over by the baggage claim, and our manager came up to me, and it was kind of the whole coaching staff came up, and he made a couple jokes about, because all I had was like this tiny little carry-on of clothes for the week, and he's like, "That's all you got?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I need for the week." And he's like, "Well, you better get used to carrying that around." And I was like, the whole thing felt, I was like, I wonder if this is happening right now, because the whole coaching staff's right here, and you're making joke like. But it was a really cool moment. I feel like I was shaking while I was shaking his hand. Like I was just, it was cool. And then the whole team kind of came over and congratulated me, stuff like that. But yeah, it was a cool moment. That's kind of how I found out.
It's one of those pinch me moments.
Exactly.
And speaking of going back to what you were saying about how you can have slumps, it's really about how you come in the next day. And I'm thinking about that. One hit can change the whole game. That's they'll hate you for missing, and then you're getting one hit and you change the whole game. And I mean, I was just speaking of the Mets. I'm not a Mets fan, but Pete Alonso, was getting that backlash, hits that one game, and now he's polar bear Pete. And obviously, I think he's always been a superstar. I'll say that much. But it is interesting how I think it's also overcoming that slump as well, and going to the next day with a fresh new mindset. I've heard from many athletes that's the way to go. Definitely the way to go. And what was it like being on the Angels? Obviously, Trout was out from early in the season, but there's a lot of leadership on that Angels team. A very strong depth, and obviously a historic team in the MLB for sure. What was that being with the Angels organization? Just being in that clubhouse with them, and what were the guys like?
For me, I feel like it was extra special because I grew up in Southern California. I grew up an Angels fan, so that made it all the much better. But yeah, overall, like you said, Trout was out, but he was still in the clubhouse. He would come into the dugout during the games. He from what I could tell, he was a really good dude. I had a couple conversations with him. So he's the leader of the team. He's Mike Trout. He's unbelievable. And then Rendon too. Anthony Rendon was another good leader in the clubhouse. I saw him. I mean, even for me, he pulled me aside a couple times and was like, "Hey, this just happened. Like, maybe you could do this next time." And he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? He's out. He could just sit there and watch the game, but that's just the kind of guy he is. I mean, he did win a World Series with the Nationals. So he's I would say those two are on the position player side were pretty good leaders. And then I personally liked watching the way Taylor Ward went about his stuff. I just think he's a really good hitter, and I think I tried to pick his brain about like having certain approaches against certain pitchers, and he would tell me what kind of he was thinking, and he would ask what I was thinking, and he'd be like, well, maybe you could do this instead. So those three guys were really cool to be around for sure. And then there's also like a lot of young guys in the clubhouse that are very mature for their age. And like most of them, it was their first full season in the big leagues. So, and they had success. So it was just cool. I feel like it was a really good group to be around.
Yeah. And we're seeing, unfortunately, those young teams without that leader have problems. And the teams with the young guys and that one or two guys in the locker room that have that experience, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it's I don't want to say night and day, but I mean, it could be they've been there, they know how the game's played, and it does change the game, in my opinion. I think always having a veteran is crucial, especially to go far in the postseason. For those who haven't been in the postseason yet. Now, did you have any mentors, in your baseball career? Anyone you looked up to playing the game? Anyone stand out, Eric?
Well, like I said, I was an Angel fan, so I really liked watching Mike Trout when I was in high school and college. So it was actually really cool to be around him. I mean, it's a bummer that I didn't get to like play with him and watch him hit and be in the box, like watch him in person like that. But yeah, I really looked up to him when I was coming up, like in high school and stuff. I don't know. I feel like I was just a big fan of the game. So like, I don't know. I just like kind of watching everybody, all the different ways, like all the different batting stances, the ways people hit. There's not just one cookie cutter way to do it. And, I think that like, if you can realize that, it can, I mean, you can incorporate that into your game, like where it's like, well, I'm not Aaron Judge, so I'm not going to go try and be Aaron Judge. Yeah.
And obviously, shout out Mike Trout, superstar. I think a lot of people. I mean, one of the best to ever play. I mean, that's just what it is, and I think he's a great person to look up to. And it's even cooler that you are on a team where obviously he was out, but you still got to have those conversations with him, and he still was on the team that you played on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think you're living every kid's dream right there. And I don't know if I could. I've talked to some very famous people on my podcast, but I don't know if I could talk to Mike Trout without shaking and being. I don't know if I could. Eric.
Yeah,
I don't think I could. I mean, that's Mike Trout.
Yeah.
But and obviously, what are kind of the the future goals for you in baseball? Obviously, you're 27, young in your career. What are the future goals for you in baseball? What would that look like, Eric?
I just want to play as long as possible. I love being out there. I think that's part of the reason why, like, I played, I didn't get to the big leagues as quick as some other people do. And I have no problem with that. Obviously you want to be in there as fast as you can, but I think like, as long as you love being around the game, love like the preparation of it and the stuff that goes on before the game, all that kind of stuff, I think it goes a long way. So I just want to be a part of the game as long as possible. I want to play as long as possible. I want to win. Future goals for me, I personally think there's no reason why I can't play in the big leagues. I think I have what it takes, mentally and physically. So I don't know. It's a pretty basic answer, but I just kind of want to play as long as possible.
I mean, there is no right answer, and that's, to me, a perfect answer, because at the end of the day, if you love what you're doing, that's all that matters in life. And that goes for anything, Eric, in the Underdog Talk, anything. If you're, a librarian, you love what you do. I mean, that's all you. But I mean, obviously, what are some key lessons that you've kind of learned about yourself through baseball, Eric?
Like you said, kind of looking at things in a bigger picture, instead of wanting things like right this second, like, or having the, like, feeling like you need to do something like right then and there. Like in terms of baseball, like, okay, I'm 0 for my last 7 or 8. If I hit a home run right here, then that'll kind of make me feel better, and the 0 for 7 or 8 will just disappear. Like it's not a big deal. But instead of like looking at it like that, it's like, no, let me go put a good at bat together. If I get out, I get out. But you got to like the process of like getting to that like successful spot. I think that was a big lesson that I've learned. I think that just think that goes a long way in life. Like kind of like it's more than just baseball. So I think that's the biggest takeaway I've had over the past few years. Because I didn't play, I was kind of like a role player. I would play when someone needed an off day for a few days, and then I would be back on the bench, and then it was back in the lineup, back on the bench. So I think just sticking to like that process and looking at things in a bigger picture, that really helped me. And like I said, results don't happen overnight. So that's just the biggest thing that I took away.
I couldn't agree more on that statement. I mean, Rome was not built in a night. People think that kind of success just comes instantly, and there are a few outliers in sports and in life who kind of, I don't want to say get lucky, but are either just destined to be great from the start. But there's also a lot of people destined to be great later in that journey.
Sure.
I mean, I think of so many athletes who came up, did their time, and now they're superstars. And what is the fan base like in Anaheim? I mean, and also what is it like? Obviously, I can imagine the jump from AAA to Pro Bowl is a quite different atmosphere. What was that all like? Did that kind of impact your game at all?
I think my first game in Minnesota, I wasn't in the lineup the day that I got there. It was a long travel day, and I ended up coming in to play left field in the last 2 innings, and I get out to left field, and these fans are just chirping at me, and I was like, okay, this is, you know what, I'm just gonna accept this because I'm in the big leagues, and I don't care. It's part of it. But I think like the Angel fans, I think that there's a lot of Angel fans out there that they're diehard true Angel fans. Like they want the team to win just as bad as we want to win. And I think like the atmosphere at Angel Stadium was awesome. Like even though, I know our record didn't show it, but I felt like we had a good team. And I feel like Angel fans know that. And like there's a lot of hope for the Angels organization, I feel like. And yeah, the atmosphere there was great. Then we went to Houston, and that place was loud because it's got that dome on it, and that place was loud. So you just kind of, I feel like you kind of have to just pretend they're not there as much as you can, because at any moment the ball could be smoked right at you at third base, and you got to make a play. But the overall atmosphere in the big leagues was it was so cool. I mean, I only got to experience Minnesota, Houston, the White Sox, and then back at home in Anaheim. But overall, it was just such a cool experience. Like, yeah, I mean, it's what you dream of.
And that's where you hit your home run against the White Sox, obviously, correct? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, Eric. I said I probably could too, but that's a joke. I could not against the White Sox. They're still special. I shouldn't have said that, but that brings me into a next question. Being a major league athlete and a professional athlete, how do you kind of handle that criticism, those chirps? Obviously, you're in a position where people are going to kind of talk cheese to you, talk negative to you. How do you kind of block that out? I think that's a really important
For sure.
to do. And how do you do that personally?
I mean, it's kind of at third base. I feel like you don't hear as much as you probably think like the players hear. I mean, when you are running off the field towards the dugout, there are people that they get their words in with you, but you just don't let it get to you personally. Like it's not, they're gonna chirp regardless. I I think like as far as, if there's bad stuff in the media or someone saying, oh, this guy can't play here or whatnot, it's to me, I feel like I don't project this, but like to me, it's like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. It's like that kind of mindset. But as far as like the fans yelling at you, it is what it is. They don't, I mean, I haven't experienced anything that bad. Like they don't make it personal. They just kind of tell you how bad you are. And it's like, all right, dude, like, that's real original. I don't know. You kind of just get over it. It's not, you kind of just take it like I said, one pitch at a time, and you kind of just try and block it out as much as you can, and you just focus on the task at hand, really.
Sounded pretty personal to me, man. They were coming after you. You gotta do what you said and prove them wrong there, Eric. And it is a hard being in that spotlight and kind of having people you've never talked to, don't even know. Again, talking, excuse my language, shit about you, and it puts you a lot. I mean, we're humans; we care about that stuff, and I think being in the spotlight it puts you into a different position. In terms of kind of how you learn to deal with it, like you talked about, Eric. And then, really, what would your advice be for, I don't want to say the younger you, but a guy who's trying to make the bigs like you, fighting for that roster spot, fighting to be the next guy? What would your advice be?
Probably, I feel like my first few years in pro ball, like I listened to the coaches, but I thought that I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. Like I needed help for sure. I think I had like all the potential, but like stuff needed to be cleaned up, whether it was mechanically or mentally. And the coaches and the staff and the organization, whoever you're with, I mean, they do have your best interest in mind. So I would tell myself to listen to them a little more, and like not prepare differently in my first few off seasons, but like just make sure I was sharp and ready to go. I think that I kind of came in the first few years like and didn't make really any adjustments from the past year. And like this game, you have to make adjustments. Like if something's not working, you got to fix it. And so like we talked about it, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you might find something that might help you like the very next day, but it takes time to like kind of build that consistent repertoire and routine. Like I also routine is another huge thing. I didn't really have like a good routine, whether that's even before you get to the field, like as far as eating and stuff like that, hydrating, all that good stuff. I would just tell myself to have a better routine and kind of like listen to the people that really do care about you because they have your best interest in mind.
I'm not a Mets fan, but man, I keep on bringing them up because they're such a prime example of what you're talking about. And I'm a Baltimore. We're a big Orioles fan, but I mean the Mets. They did exactly what you talked about. It wasn't working for them in the beginning of the season. Shoot, you can even see the Tigers. It wasn't working for them in the beginning of the season. They changed up their routines. They changed up techniques. I mean, both those teams are doing big things. I mean, the Mets just won, and the Tigers are up 2-1. So, it's impressive what that one change does. And I actually do have a question. Do they chirp in the minor leagues? If so, is it bad?
Like the fans?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they still yell at you there too. There's less people in the crowd too, so you can hear pretty much everything they say. So of course they still do.
I'm sure you probably heard some stuff, but and kind of looking at this current MLB season, such a stellar season for baseball. Do you see Major League Ball going in the right direction in terms of that fan growth? Obviously, I think this year has just been really rejuvenating fans back to MLB with the excitement that this season has brought alone. I know a lot of people are tuning in now. Attendance has been up in most stadiums. Do you see ball getting more popular?
I do. Yeah, I think there's just a ton of like young players that are so exciting to watch. Like Jackson Merrill from the Padres. You got Churio from the Brewers. I mean, that Orioles team is young and they're good too. Every one of them is so good and fun to watch. yeah, I think there's just so much more like there's just so much athleticism in the game now that it's you can turn on a game and at any second someone's going to make a play like and you're going to say how did he even make that play? I mean, the amount of I feel like home runs that were robbed this year, that is not easy to do. And guys are getting way off the ground and just pulling these balls back into the stadium and it's just incredible to watch. And I mean, the pitching's unbelievable. The offense is good. It's just, I feel like it's just a more competitive, athletic game, and it's just people are tuning in to watch.
And shout out to our trio, Jackson, Gunner, and Happy, if you're watching
Yeah.
this. Open invite on the podcast,
Yeah.
boys. And that kind of leads me into my final question. This is going to be the hardest question for you, Eric, on the podcast, I think, because, I mean, this is the main topic in baseball, and talking about two electrifying superstars in probably the AL MVP and the NL MVP. You know where I'm getting at this. Who would you rather have, Shohei or Aaron Judge?
Oh man.
Is this even an answerable question?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's so hard. For me personally, I just love watching Aaron Judge. I mean, it's just I think it's so fun. I don't know if it's because I'm a right-handed hitter and so is he, but I feel like in the long run you would want Shohei because he could pitch too. I know he didn't throw this year, but like, I mean, he throws 100 miles an hour and hits 55 home runs for you. That is the hardest question of the podcast, no doubt.
And I mean, I think I just see these questions going, who would you rather have? I think the answer is you want both of these guys. I mean, these guys are generational, obviously. I mean, one can pitch and hit like no one else, and one is 6'6" and just hitting bombs. And this is a little cold postseason. But I promise, and I'm predicting the future, Aaron Judge, he will get hot at the right time. I mean, he's do well. I mean, that's a guy you don't want to mess with. Now, Eric, before we go, the floor is yours. Where can we find, your social media? Are you working on anything during this off season that we can support? The floor is yours, sir.
Not at the moment. No, I mean, just other than kind of, refining those little things that I want to work on this off season. I feel like I could be a little better with the whole social media thing. I don't really post too much. But yeah, there's nothing huge this offseason that's going on.
It's rest and recovery. And you know what? I think the only one that needed to be posted was one of you hitting your first home run.
Yeah, exactly.
Delete all the other photos. Just keep that up there. You're going down in eternity. You're going down in history. And first 5 people to follow Eric on Instagram, send me a DM. We'll get you a special package out to you because this is the young goat. And I know baseball to a point. And Eric's got the potential. He's got that drive. And Eric, thank you again for talking to me on the Underdog Talk podcast. The honor was ours. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Until next time, the young gun and the underdog out.